Здраво и добре дојдовте во првиот подкаст на Центарот за иновации во медиумите при Правниот факултет Иустинијан I во Скопје. Центарот е основан во соработка со Амбасадата на Соединетите Американски држави во Македонија и Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications, Arizona State University.
Денес, на наше големо задоволство, како прва гостинка ја имаме амбасадорката Angela Ageler. Добре дојдовте. Наше задоволство е што сте тука.
Благодарам.
Првото прашање што сакаме да ви го поставиме е да ве прашаме како се чувствувате денес.
How do I feel?
Сте?
I am delighted to be here, and what an honor to be your first guest. This is really terrific. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to be at UCAM, and so delighted to be with the two of you. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, it's our pleasure.
We can continue in English.
Okay.
Can you describe what student life was like during your time at UTEC University? And what were the main challenges and opportunities for students back then?
Yeah. And I'm happy to talk about that, but can I start by talking about Kočani a little bit?
Yes, for sure.
Because this is students. And it's you guys who were affected by this. So first of all, our hearts were broken by what happened. As I know, around the country, people felt this. And one of the things that we can do to honor those in times of catastrophe is to do exactly what you're doing, is having conversations as young people who are doing things for your country. And I think that's a great credit to you, to this school. And I think it's so important to have the voices of young people heard. And universities are the place to do that. And there's no greater venue for that than UCAM and this school. And so I truly am really honored to be here. This is a great opportunity for that. UCAM is a little bit different than the University of Utah, where I went, but also, both great organizations. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about university is the opportunity to do so much beyond what you initially want to do. And this is very much the case in American universities, that you can have your certain major, but you can also explore many other ideas and many other educational opportunities. And often what you believe you want to do at 18 turns out not to be the thing you really wanted to do all the time, and you find other avenues. So university was a great opportunity to do that, to make lifelong friends, and to get an idea of yourself in the adult world. And I think by pursuing journalism as a possible opportunity, this is a great way to do that.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning Kočani, because I think that we are really sad about what happened, and especially because we are the faculty of law, political science, journalism. We are the one who should talk about this topic the most.
Yeah.
Can I ask you maybe a more interesting question? Mm-hmm. Do you want to share any anecdotes or interesting experiences from your student life days? How they went? Some professor that maybe give you an example of what should you do during your life and your career.
I certainly had some very, very inspiring professors. I took an honors course that lasted, we had the quarter system there, 5 quarters, so it was a year and a half. This course was. And it was called Intellectual Traditions of the West. And it started essentially from Aristotle to current thinking. So there was a lot to cover in a year and a half. But the teacher was so dynamic, and she passed away a number of years ago, but she made, ancient books. She made the Iliad seem very alive. And she would talk about these things in a way that was very colorful and active, and do so in a way that made me realize that history must always inform our present and also our future. But to not get too wrapped up in what happened 2,000 years ago, that we forget that we have to continue to move forward. So that was one of the things that really shaped, I think, how I moved forward through life.
Now, one question about your professional life. I mean, what is like to be a woman in diplomacy?
You know, I get asked that a lot, and my answer is always the same. I don't know, because I don't know what it's like to be a man in diplomacy. So I know my experience, and so I can't compare. I know that there, certainly in the United States, for many years has been a push for equal representation of women within diplomacy. I think we've actually found that. And the State Department we certainly have as many women coming in to new classes as men. And so that has been equal. The question more now is in the higher leadership positions, are there as many women as men? Increasingly, we are seeing that there is, but there's still a little bit of work to do on that. But it has been fantastic, frankly. And I feel very strongly that if a woman knows that she belongs at the table with everyone else, and just go there, do your job, say what you believe, then she, in my experience, have been given as much of a voice as the men around me.
Yes, it's really interesting. I'm pursuing my master's degrees in international relations and diplomacy, and also as a junior assistant, I realized that there is a lack of students that are interested here in studying international relations and diplomacy. We are trying to find an answer, but we are not really familiar with the cause of that. So what advice would you give to the young people who aspire to build career in international relations and diplomacy? How can we get them to be more interested about this topic?
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe this case is because of the geopolitical situation, or maybe of maybe of the whole faculty system here, not only the faculties, but the whole country at all, and our international relations?
Well, that's a fantastic question also. And as you know, I met a group of ninth grade students before coming in today, and they asked the same question. So I appreciate that ninth graders are also thinking about that and also interested in it. And it's my impression that, look, the young people of this country are its greatest resource and greatest asset, in my view. There are a lot of wonderful, talented, older adults in this country, but I really think that you guys have a vision of the world, and as do these ninth graders, that is going to be an enormous resource for North Macedonia. Yes. And I think that requires a global view. I think that there should be more in this country, and frankly around the region, and in the United States, who think about our place globally, our place in the world. That's what a diplomat does. A diplomat comes to another country, works very hard to try to understand the culture, the language if possible, the sensitivities, and the goals of that particular country, and then to figure out how we can help you. One of the things I talk about the most is how can we as the U.S. Embassy help you achieve your goals? Because when you succeed, we succeed, and the whole region and the world does better. And so that's a really important consideration. No country is so small that it doesn't matter, or that it can't play a critical role. We have seen that in this country. It's since this country joined NATO, for example. You have been incredible allies. You have contributed far more than much larger countries. And so I think having the curiosity to understand other people, other cultures, other nations' priorities is really important.
Can you tell us what are the biggest advantages and challenges of your job?
It's very busy. Yes, I will tell you that I have served in this country twice, and I love it. I really do. And I love the people here. And one of the things that is great about it is in my job, it is never boring. There is never a boring day. There is always something going on. There's always some new rumor or some new conversation. And one of the greatest benefits is to do things like this and to talk to the ninth grade kids, to talk to people beyond sort of the normal expected officials and other diplomats. I really love to talk to normal Macedonians and hear about what you're thinking about and what those kids wanted to know about. That to me is enormously fun. I will tell you that being the U.S. ambassador in Skopje is one of the most fun jobs that anyone can have. So that's a huge, huge benefit. Challenges, there's a lot to do. We have a lot of work to do together. And I take it very seriously because I do care about what happens in this country. So I try to work really, really hard because I think it's to all of our benefits.
So, well, I want to ask you a more personal question,
okay.
Because we also want to know more about you, and especially that we are aware that when you go to the interviews, usually they are more focused about your position here, the international relations, and everything that the embassy do for the country. But what about you? What's your favorite book, for example? What type of music or hobbies do you like the most?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking that question. I do work a lot. And my family is not with me. My husband is the OSCE ambassador in Sarajevo, so we don't live in the same place. My daughter is a journalist and lives in Washington, D.C., so if you don't have your family with you, it's very easy to work too much. I love to read, and I read almost anything I can get my hands on. I really enjoy hiking and meeting new people and traveling around the country. I love jazz. I also love classical music and, whatever's on the radio pretty much most of the time. So I also like to, sometimes have a quiet day at home with my little dog and not talk to anybody. So, but I think that's true of everyone.
That type of day.
We all need some downtime. So,
yes. Yeah. When you talk about Skopje, we really wanted to ask you, what's your favorite spot? What's your favorite place in Skopje or in North Macedonia? Where do you enjoy yourself the most?
My favorite spot in this country is probably my backyard, my garden. It's very quiet. It's very peaceful. It's very beautiful. I really enjoy that quiet time. I also have to say we are enormously lucky at the embassy, as you know, because we are up on a hill and we have a beautiful view, absolutely beautiful view of the city and Vodno, and it's really magnificent. I also, some of the greatest times I've had are in the backyard of my friends' homes, having long dinners and drinking lots of wonderful Macedonian wine. And there's very few places I don't enjoy visiting in this city. There's so much here.
Right. Yeah. And how do you perceive our country? I mean, what surprised you the most or impressed you the most about this country and its people?
When I first arrived here, and I spent 10 months in Washington studying Macedonian the first time before I came. And that's really helpful because you learn so much, as you guys know, you learn so much about a culture by studying a language. How phrases are constructed it really gives you a great deal of insight. And so I really appreciated that. And what I was surprised by, but not completely, because I'd sort of come to expect it, is how remarkably welcoming and outgoing and friendly people here are. And when they embrace you, when you become their friend, you're part of the family. It's like, it's done. And I really continue to feel that, because when I came back, my friends are still my friends, and they couldn't care less that I'm the American ambassador. I know their kids, they know my daughter, they know my, you're part of the family. And I really, really appreciate that about this country. And I appreciate, as I said before, that the young people of this country are so enormously talented and have so much potential. And I think if the country is in your hands, then it'll be in great hands. And I really do look forward to a bright future.
Yes, because you mentioned you mentioned that your daughter is a journalist, and we're at our Medium studio here. I really want to ask you, what's your opinion on young people who have some troubles to get to their pet, but by their own, how can we say it, their own wish?
Yeah.
Because I think that here maybe the biggest problem and biggest challenge to the young people is how to choose their own pet. What's your opinion on that? How for example, because you mentioned your daughter, did you encourage her when she decided to go to the journalism as her career path?
Yeah. She didn't study journalism. She studied history and French, but she was always very interested. She's a great writer. She grew up overseas because her parents are diplomats, but it became very clear very quickly that she wanted to become a journalist. It's hard. It is very competitive, as you know, but it is also one of those jobs that, in my observation, and knowing friends who are journalists from all over the world, it's almost a calling. It sometimes reminds me of being a diplomat, because it's something that if you're really connected to it, you don't want to do anything else. And so she has had an interesting career path. She worked at New York Magazine. She worked as a freelancer for many years, and now she writes for The Guardian. She's a staff writer at The Guardian US. And journalism is in flux right now. It's changing, and because of social media and how people absorb news now, it's very different. But the career is still so critically important. And frankly, something that is important in the career is, if you love it, you're going to do better than if you're just doing it to try to get a job. And it's one of those careers that you probably should love it, because it demands a lot from you. As you guys know, it's something that you have to have a kind of drive. But if you do really want to succeed, you will find a way. It will, and it's something that you are committed to. It'll work.
Yes.
My question is, how can young people stay true to their beliefs and values in their professional life?
Yeah. Well, that's a really critical question, regardless of what your interests are, right? Yes. And one of the things is to not lose the idealism that you have as students. Or any of your colleagues. Generally when somebody enters university, they have an idea of how they want to have an impact in the world, the career that they want, how they're going to make it better. If they're, when I started university, I was 100% determined to become a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. I never became a lawyer because I did pre-law classes and was like, never mind. And then happily ended up in my job. But you have that idealism, but I believe it's important never to lose that. And to, as you say, be true to yourself. If there is personal integrity, if you have a commitment to your career and your own individual integrity, you'll be fine. Because you never lose that. It's the point... if you're always honest, then you're never afraid of being caught in a lie. right? Because you will never, and that's, I think, where people get into trouble. And I think it's making concessions within yourself that gets people into trouble. Of, well, if I just do this one thing, it's not that big of a deal, and I'll be fine. And I think it's pursuing it with real determination. And again, that commitment to being honest with yourself. Because inside, we all know whether or not we've been honest or not. Others might. But having that clarity of thought is something that will really help you.
Yes. We are aware that we are facing and dealing with a brain drain, especially from the young people here. So we are trying to find a way how to motivate them to stay here and to give some of the potential to the country. And maybe if you could leave one key message for students to remember from this conversation and maybe to motivate them to stay here and work here, what it would be.
Yeah. And I'm very aware of that. And I meet a lot of young people and not so young people who are saying they want to leave. I also know that I have met few citizens of a country like Macedonians who love their country so much, who feel so connected to it, and who miss it terribly when they leave. And so, the one thing I would say is I think it's great to travel. I think it's great to go away and study somewhere else, to learn another language, to live and work somewhere. But come back and bring that experience back here. Be curious, as we talked about, the rest of the world. Be a part and understand your role within the broader world, but bring your talents here. And the other part of that I think is really important is ask hard questions, because it's your country too. You're not, renters. You are Macedonians, and it's your country. So ask your teachers hard questions. Ask officials hard questions. Ask them what they're doing to help create opportunities for your generation and the ninth graders, because they are answerable to you. And the whole notion of this country's future is in your hands, it's true. It is. And as I say, it is your country. And so remind your friends of that. Again, I think it's great to study overseas. I think it's great to have experiences overseas.
To bring back.
And then bring it back. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for these wonderful conversations. We were honored to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And maybe the last question we want to ask, did you enjoy yourself having this conversation with us?
I loved it. I could sit here and talk to you guys all day, but unfortunately they won't let me. Thank you so much. And great questions, by the way. Great journalists in the making, I see.
Thank you. It's our pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.